Welcome, everyone. It's so good to see all of you on this Lenten Tuesday. I'm Valerie Gaines, and I'm here with you today from St. Paul's Church because as we get ready for the Diocese of Massachusetts gets ready for a pilgrimage that will take place in October of 2022. I would like to share with you what my experiences were with the pilgrimage that took place in November of 2019. So welcome. Okay, so I will share my screen.
Bring my water up there, please.
Okay.
Right there.
Okay, so I'm going to just quickly go over with you. This is the brochure for the current pilgrimage, and it's very much like the one that I took in November of 2019. So it tells you, and I can send this to anyone who's interested in it. I can send it to Becky, and the church will have it, and so forth. So, and you can see in here, it tells that that the Episcopal, it's a connection with the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem that's comprised largely of Arab Christians in Palestine, Israel, Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan, and connection with the Diocese of Massachusetts. So I'll leave you to look at this in your leisure. I just wanted to show you some of the general information. The pilgrimage leaves on October 17th and returns on October 28th. And the deadline for registering is April 1st, 2022, and you need some things in place in order to do that. The cost of it is listed here, the $4,400 to $4,600, $600 due by April 1st. I tell you all this, I'm not working for the diocese. I just wanted you to have the information and to know that the pilgrimage itself is all inclusive. I couldn't believe it when I went, how they took care of everything once I paid for the trip, all meals, airfare, everything. So with that said, I will go on to the next thing. So I'd like to start by showing you, this is the Holy Land group photo, and you probably, if you looked at our St. Paul's website, advertised this, you'll see that this picture was there. This is a photo of our pilgrimage, and there were 22 of us who went. This was taken at St. George's Cathedral guest house in East Jerusalem. These were the pilgrims, and of this group, 9 were from the Church of the Redeemer in Lexington, and others were from various churches. I was the only one from St. Paul's Natick. When I was setting out to do this, I knew only one other person, and that was, it was Billy Mae Gordon, who I hadn't known her since we were in youth group together. That was quite a few years ago in St. Paul's, Brockton. So we get to know each other again in that way. And in this picture, at the front of the picture is Iyad Kumri, and he is a lifelong Anglican Episcopalian who runs the tours in the Holy Land, and Rania, who was one of our tour guides, Bishop Gale. We had 5 priests with us. The others were lay people. And I met my roommate. So here I am right here, excuse me. And I met my roommate, who's right here, Susan Dressley, in one of the pre-meetings. And we both said, oh, our husbands aren't interested in going. And we said, do you want a room together? And we got to be fast friends. So that was a lovely time. Okay. So let me get out of that. And then, okay. So I thought I'd start by talking about what our trip encompassed. It was an amazing, it was 2 full weeks. It was an amazing time. So we came in through, we arrived and departed from Tel Aviv, which is, the big city in Israel. And we made our way by ground transport to Jerusalem. And during the time we were there, we saw a lot of different things in Jerusalem. We went to Bethlehem. We saw the River Jordan. We spent 4 days in Nazareth. So we took the trip north here. When we were in Nablus, we saw Jacob's well, and where Jesus saw the Samaritan woman. If it's okay, you don't mind if I jump around a little bit. We swam in the Dead Sea. We saw, as we traveled north, we went to Nazareth, and Lake Tiberias is the Sea of Galilee, and we saw the Sea of Galilee. We took a boat tour on the Sea of Galilee. I'll show you photos and videos of these things. I just thought if you saw an overview of all the places that we went. We also went to Cepherus, which was the capital of this area during Jesus's time, a large city, and it's not mentioned in the Bible, but it's known that was a significant city at the time, and we got to see that. Went to Jericho, Bethlehem. So it was a pretty extensive trip, and it was not a big trip geographically. It didn't take that long to cover these places. We traveled by bus. We were all together every day. We ate all our meals together, and we prayed together, and we learned together so much history. So let me just go on from there. Does anybody have any questions about the map before I move on from there? Okay, good. I kept going. When I started out, I really didn't understand that. I had to keep looking at the map to ground myself. So that's why I thought I'd start with that. Okay, so, all right. So let's, without further ado, let's look at some photos. Okay. So I am not a professional photographer, as you'll see with what I share with you here. I had my Motorola Android phone, and I took videos, and I took photos, and I will tell you the story about it as we go along. So here we are. This was the first day where we took that photo of the group photo. This was St. George's Cathedral, and St. George's Cathedral Guest House is an amazing place. The cathedral is right there, right through these doors, and it goes in. It's a beautiful cathedral. And then there is a guest house there that has lovely rooms, lovely accommodations, beautiful gardens. I'll show you some of those pictures. And we were in East Jerusalem near the Damascus Gate that goes right into the old city. It was amazing. And we had right across the street from us, there was a jewelry shop named someone named Brahim, and he was a Palestinian Christian, and he was selling, and I bought, you can see I have my Jerusalem cross on. I brought Jerusalem crosses home to my family. All of them, right, Shannon?
Yes, sorry, I was on mute, but yes, indeed, you did.
Yeah. So let me just kind of move along. So I was saying that this is the Damascus Gate. So we literally walked out of St. George's Cathedral Guest House, out of that courtyard. And the weather, by the way, was like what I just showed you. It was beautiful weather every day. Walked down the end of the street, and this is Damascus Gate. At the end of Nablus Road, where St. George's Cathedral and Guest House is located. These are some of our pilgrims taking pictures. We were doing a lot of that. There's another one about the Damascus Gate. This is a dinner that we had at Beit Sahor at the Orient restaurant, and they brought. We had wonderful food on this trip, and especially if you like Middle Eastern food. And in this case, they cooked chicken in these I'd had brick chicken before, but I've never seen it in this kind of oven where they actually pack the chicken in and they cement it into the stove and cook the chicken and then take it out and serve it. It was amazing. This was the man who was doing it. This is Rania. She was one of our tour guides. And we all ate together every meal. We had, a lot of fun with that. This is a picture. This is a view from the Lutheran guest house. This was that same day. And so I don't know whether I'll talk over my voice here because I was trying to whisper. We had lunch at the Lutheran guest house, and Norm Faramelli, who was one of the people on our trip, said you really should go to the top of the guest house and take in the view, because you can see the Dome of the Rock is there. You could get a view of the beauty of the city. This picture I put in because I wanted you to see. People have asked me what did we wear while we were there. We all had with us headscarves for times that they would be needed. If we were going to the Dome of the Rock, if we were going into any of the religious places. So it was very simple, and we also had modest dress. We didn't wear sleeveless clothes like I have today, and we had covered shoes. But other than that, we wore comfortable clothes, slacks, and tops, and hats as needed for the sun. These were 3 of our pilgrims, and we've all gotten to be such good friends since then. We've actually had 3 reunions since we went on the trip, 2 in person and once on Zoom. And we really grew to very fond of each other. So this was the Wailing Wall, the Western Wall. And I was really blown away by being there. I had heard about it. I knew it was part of, but I thought of it more of a Jewish tradition. And then we arrived there, and our guide said, this is where Jesus would have come to the temple. And I was just overwhelmed that this was my heritage too. So this is the overview from here. And as you can see, we had, head coverings when we were there. We were separated, the men and the women were separated, and we had prayers on pieces of paper that you could put into the wall. And that's what we're doing, is going and saying a prayer. And I think they take those papers out each night. I had heard about, this is the ramp that goes from the Western Wall up to the Dome of the Rock. And I knew, the Holy Land is meaningful to more people in the world than any other place in the world, because of all the 3 major religions that began here. And I had no idea how close the Dome of the Rock was to the Western Wall. Literally, you just go up a ramp that overlooks the Western Wall, and you go up to the Dome of the Rock. So that's what we're doing here. And this is the Dome of the Rock. Let me just see if I can. So this is located on the Temple Mount in the old city of Jerusalem. It's one of the oldest works of Islamic architecture. And it's it's situated on top of the site of the second Jewish temple, which you can imagine because the Western Wall is just below it. And just being there and realizing how important this is to the Muslims, as well as, of course, the Jews. Non-Muslims cannot pray or bring non-religious books into this area. So we could look at it from the outside. We were not allowed to go in. And then this is Al-Aqsa Mosque. And that's on the site of the second temple. And it used to be, one of the people in our party said that he had been here before. He used to be allowed to go in there, and they don't allow non-Muslims in there anymore. Okay, so this is the pools of Bethesda. Let me just see if I have, oh, wait a minute, let me, sorry. Okay, thought that was a video. Let me start from here. So this is St. Anne's Church, and this is a church that is one of the earliest Crusader type churches that was erected, and it is at the site of the home of Mary's parents, Anne and Joachim, the place of her birth. And when we walked inside, we were, with our group, and as we were herded to go in, our guide said to us, when we go inside, we need to pick a song to sing. So what we decided was that we would sing "Seek Ye First." And this is a recording of the people who went in just ahead of us. And this church, it has among the best acoustics of churches in the world. That's Rania. And this is some of us from our group that were getting ready to go there. This tells about how this was the birthplace of Our Lady, which is, of course, Mary. This was a memorial to Mary. And this was the video I was looking for before. So this actually blew me away, because this is the pools of Bethesda. And when they were erecting this church of St. Anne, and they did the archaeological dig, they unearthed the pools of Bethesda. And the pools of Bethesda is where Jesus healed the paralytic man. Let's find I'm sorry, Jesus healed the man who was lame for 38 years on the Sabbath. And he said, "Stand up, take your mat and walk." That was from John 5:8. So let me just run the video so you can see. They showed us, you could see the Roman cisterns that were above, and the water would flow in here. And then, the people, they would bring the people that were just debilitated and in and help them to heal. And this is where Jesus healed them. So. And see how deep it is. So we were overlooking it. Okay, So sorry if I jump around a little bit. This was just showing you some of the beautiful flowers. This was actually at St. George's guest house, and all around us, there were beautiful flowers like this. And this is how we dressed, a hat, leggings, comfortable walking shoes, and so forth. This is Wadi Kelt, and this I had certain times on the trip where I kind of was so moved that I had to compose myself, and this was one of them. Because when I was on the bus we were going here, and we were told we would be celebrating the Eucharist at Wadi Kelt, and so we had to walk up. And as you can see, I want you to see from this how close we all were to each other. This is Bishop Gale helping Norm Faramelli up the steps. Norm had fallen the first day, and luckily he was okay afterwards, but he was a trooper. He got right back in there and was participating fully. And we were walking up the steps to Wadi Kelt. And Wadi Kelt, they believe, may be the site of, it goes from Jericho, where the river would go from Jericho to Jerusalem. And they believe that it is where the 23rd Psalm was based on that, through the valley of the shadow of death. And when I was on the bus, Rania, our tour guide, came over to me and she handed me the 23rd Psalm, and she asked me if I would read it when we came here. And that's one of my favorite prayers. So I was very moved by that. And so here we are. I'm sorry about I didn't hold it very steadily, but you can see these, can't you just picture Jesus walking on the road from Jericho to Jerusalem? I was just so moved by that. And look at, people taking photos all around, seeing the desert cow like that. And there's my roommate, Susan. Okay. Let me just see there if it has in here. Okay. So this was on the hillside above us. This was a Bedouin boy on a donkey. And I was just so moved by that because it looks so biblical, especially coming to Palm Sunday and all. And the Bedouins, they sell trinkets and things. They're still nomadic peoples, although there have been laws against them having the nomadic life, but they like to sell things to the tourists. So they hung around on the fringes. And that's why they were up there like that. And this is where we celebrated the Eucharist. So we were all lined up, and the Eucharist was set up like that. So it was a very moving moment. Okay, yeah. So now this is on to a different time. This was on the trip up to the Mount of Temptation. So there's a monastery up at the top of the Mount of Temptation. So it was like a tram kind of thing like they have up in the White Mountains. Okay. And now we're, after we saw quite a lot of the sites around Jerusalem, we spent 4 days in the Nazareth area. And this is the Church of the Annunciation in Nazareth. And it's the church where Mary, the angel Gabriel, came to Mary when she was at the well. And so it's a beautiful church, and it has inside it has depictions of Mary from all over the world. It was quite moving. This was the River Jordan, and we were renewing our baptismal vows. So we were asked to, to select something that we wanted to say to renew our baptismal vows. And Bishop Gale went around to each one of us and blessed us in that way. This is my roommate, Susan Dressley, and on that same day. So this was and at the site of where Peter's house was in Capernaum. So we saw Peter's house. I don't have a picture of that, but this is an ancient synagogue that has the ruins. And then over here is a more recent synagogue, only still many, thousands of years old. And what they talked with us about at that time, and I thought it was interesting, was that Jesus, they said, look around, there weren't many trees there, and there was a lot of stonework. And what they conjectured was that Jesus was a stonemason rather than a carpenter with wood. This is the Sea of Galilee, and the Sea of Galilee is just a lake. It's not a huge place. I think in the Bible they tended to make things a little bit more, impressive by calling them and names such as that. This is Kathy Burns, and she was reading from Scripture as we all sat there. And I'll start the video up. Now you get to see it. Can't you just picture Jesus walking across on the water like that? It was another moving moment.
Val, I hate to pop out. I'm just going to thank you for this, and I'll watch the rest later. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Bye. Okay. This is a cave that was discovered in the excavations under the Sisters of Nazareth convent where we stayed. It was a lovely place. It was fascinating while we were there. We could hear the Muslim call to prayer 5 times a day. And Bishop Gale told us that Christianity used to have call to prayer 5 times a day as well, but then until the time of the Protestant Reformation, and then they stopped that. So it was interesting to hear that. But what this is, so we were staying upstairs in the Sisters of Nazareth guest house, and they said, we have a special treat for you. One night when we were there, they took us downstairs, down these stairs that had been there since the time of the Crusaders. When the Sisters of Nazareth put their convent in the 1800s, they excavated the area under it, and they found this tomb. And the reason that this is symbolic to me, I think, and for a lot of people, is that it is very much like what Jesus's tomb would have been like, with the stone that was rolled away from the cave. Okay. And here's the tour bus that took us around. We could see us lining up. We had luxury accommodations, traveling with each other every day. That's Norm getting on there. He's a priest who knew a lot about the Holy Land. I had wonderful conversations with him every night when we were back at the guest house. And this is a church that in the West Bank. It's called St. George's Church in Birken. And this church is one of the oldest churches in Christendom. And you can see this was actually from a cave. And it's from the Bible that tells us about how Jesus healed the 10 lepers that came out and called to him. And so this was the church that was created there. And so the rest of the church it's a Greek Orthodox church. And so it looks very much like a Greek Orthodox church, but it maintains the character of the original cave. And the people who are there, this is a small community in the West Bank. And there are still 72 Christians in the Holy Land. Only 2% of the people in the Holy Land are Christians, because so many of them have emigrated because of, unfortunately, for extremism, from political extremism from Muslims and from Judaism. But this is a small community that maintains itself, and St. George's, and they were so happy to see us. They welcomed us in, they had a coffee hour for us, and it was a lovely time. This is Shepherd's Fields in Nazareth, where the shepherds were watching their flocks when the star appeared. And this is the church, Shepherd's Field Church. You can see it's shaped like a Bedouin's tent. I found it very meaningful being there. One of the things I learned too while I was there was that the shepherds were kind of looked down upon in Judaism, except with the exception of David, of course. So I think it was very symbolic that it was the shepherds who were there at the birth of Jesus. This is Rania, our tour guide. Here's a view of the Dome of the Rock. You see that everywhere. And you also see the soil is very desert-like, very limestone, and there's layers and layers of history. It's almost mind-boggling, all that there is to learn. This is from the Garden of Gethsemane, and so where Jesus went before he was crucified. These are our hosts. It was such a welcoming time, and this is Iyad Kumri, who was the one who owns the travel agency that took us, and this is his wife Simone and his son, and they welcomed us into their home. They had a lovely dinner for us, and we all gathered there near the end of our pilgrimage. This is just a picture of one of the rooms that we stayed at in St. George's. This is my accountability buddy. Her name is Susan Burkhart. And reason we're doing that with the fingers is that every time we had to account, like they do in school, you had to account on the bus for whoever, make sure your buddy was there. So we would do this. I see you. And we've been in touch several times since then. Okay. So that is what I have put together of my photos, but I'm wondering if anybody has any questions.
I don't have questions for you, Mom, but as you know, I was there in 1997, and this has been such a good refresher. Like, I don't remember so many places that I was, and I didn't go all the places that you went, but this has been really cool with the photos to really see, you know, what things look like and to try to experience what it would be like to be on this trip. This is really neat.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, there was so much that we covered. I went to Nablus, and that was Jacob's well, and they actually and the well of the Samaritan woman, and they actually had us cranking up the water from the well while we were there. I did not include pictures of Church of the Holy Sepulchre because that's a lot of history in and of itself. But I think it's important to note what it is, because I've seen some things that Chris has done, which is just wonderful historical stuff. It's in the Christian quarter of the Old City. It has the two holiest sites in Christianity. It has the site where Jesus was crucified and the site of Jesus's empty tomb, where he was believed to have been buried and resurrected. So there was a lot of history there. And it has another thing we did when we were in Jerusalem. We did the Stations of the Cross and walking around the old city, and it looked probably like it did in Jesus's day, with people with long beards and peddlers at their stands. And we went and did the Stations of the Cross, and the one that got me was Pontius Pilate's garden, and we were walking around from station to station, and there were 4 stations within the Church of the Holy Sepulchre as well. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre has the main denominations there are Greek Orthodox, Armenian, Apostolic, and Roman Catholic, and there's a whole they have this whole thing, they call it a simultaneum, about who controls it and all that. So that's something for another day. So Carmen, this is another one of my buddies. This is Kathy Burns. So it was so funny because Brahim, who was the jeweler across the street, couldn't tell us apart.
Wow. That's her. Yeah.
So
Valerie, I have a question. Oh, this is Judy.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
So how did you feel there? Did you feel safe?
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. I have never, I mean, we were like, I felt like when I was in school and you went on a school field trip and the teachers and the parents were in charge, and you were, except, as the grown up and people were nice to each other, how kids can be difficult with each other. No, it was very safe. We were together all the time. And we were told exactly what to do, when and how. We prayed together, we stayed together. And a lot of the information that we get is from a different perspective than what the Palestinian Christians see when they're on the ground there. And Bishop Gale had wonderful relationships with everyone there. They love her. That was her 8th trip when she took us. So this next one will be her 9th trip.
Oh, wow.
And when I didn't mention too, when we were in Nazareth, with the Sisters of Nazareth, we worshiped on Sunday with that local church, local Anglican church. The church was under construction, so they were actually worshipped at the convent. And the service was in Arabic and in English, and you could recognize what they were saying even when it was in Arabic. And then they had a coffee hour afterwards, and we all got together. So it was lovely. Just very well cared for. I mean, going through the airport, we were instructed on exactly what to do. We stuck together all the time, and I can't say enough good things. I've never felt more cared for in my life than I did on this trip.
Oh, wow. Now you were saying that the man that couldn't, that had hurt his ankle, you called him Norm?
Norm Faramelli, yes.
He
was
he with the diocese?
He was with us, yeah.
But I mean, did he
he's
used
fine.
to?
He's fine. I don't want to.
No, I mean, did he used to be with the diocese, working with the diocese?
Oh, well, he's a priest, and he's been very active with the diocese. I'm not sure. Maybe you've known him in other.
Yes.
He knew a lot about the Holy Land.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, before I went, I was very interested to go because my friend Ray Lowe had been very active in the Palestinian Christian cause and had told me a lot about it. And there were two people who knew a lot about the politics and the history and all of that. And one was Norm Faramelli, who was a priest, the one I told you about, and the other one was Cliff Cutler, who was also a priest. And
I know Norm.
Oh, you do know him?
Yes.
He was wonderful, and he bounced back and everything. It was just an accident. He fell, and so he, as a matter of fact, when we went to Emmaus at near the end of our trip, and we actually, did the scripture from the road to Emmaus, and we celebrated the Eucharist there, and he led that. He was wonderful. He has a wonderful, wonderful voice. He speaks several languages, and he was great.
What's his last name?
Faramelli, Farmelli.
Yeah, I think he was on one of the committees with my sister years ago when Bishop Shaw was there. And
right.
And he was on one, and I have met him a few times at the church. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, because when you said Norm, I said, oh, and I said, oh, that's got to be him.
Yeah, I'll go back and look at the picture one more time. So I put this picture in of the fig tree because I thought it was kind of funny that I had it in mind that I wanted to see a fig tree because there's so much in scripture about fig trees. And here, and this was in the courtyard at St. George's guest house where we were staying. So there was so much to discover just walking around, and here it was right here, and it tells you from Mark 13:28, Jesus taught the parable of the fig tree. So,
wow. Oh, the pictures were beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Well, they're not, they're just my pictures on my phone, but and there were more, but I was trying to just kind of encapsulate the trip and not give you too much detail because it really was a very rich trip. Let me just let me look up the picture again. So there's Norm right here.
Yeah.
And this is Beth Grundy. She was a priest, and I've got the names of all the people there. And they were just such one. And this is Billy Mae Gordon, who I was in youth group with. And we knew each other through Ray Lowe, who was my priest friend who has since passed away. He was the rector of St. Luke's in Scituate. But we hadn't really gotten to know each other for, a lot of years. I just had heard about her through the years and the work that she did as a priest. This is Cliff Cutler.
But you all just met there. You didn't know she was going.
Right. Well, I knew she was going, but I got to know her on the trip. I mean, we just said hi, nice to see you, and then so since then we've been in touch more often. And as I say, of this group, I think there were 7 people from Church of the Redeemer in Lexington, and so they knew each other, but they weren't a clique. I mean, they welcomed everybody else in, and everybody from the get-go got along so well. And we just, we were asked to travel on the bus with different, it's kind of like what they say to kids on field trips. or for a retreat, like at a retreat, they eat at different tables. They'd say, sit with someone different on the bus each time. And so we would be processing all this information that we were learning. And I mean, I didn't realize how much I didn't know. I mean, how many thousands of years of history. And when you see these sites, there's so much to know because it was what it was in the, right after Jesus's death, and then what happened with the Crusades, and then what happened when someone else came in and took it over, and then all these different things. So it was quite impressive. But anyway, so I was really happy to be able to go through my photos and videos again and share in this way. And I am hoping that, this next pilgrimage is coming right up because it's October, but they want people to sign up by April 1st. But if anybody in the parish, this will be recorded from tonight. If anybody has any questions and I can provide any information, I'm happy to. There's a certain amount of work you have to do in advance. You have to make sure you get your passport and everything ready, but they meet twice in advance and give you a lot of good information, and you have the whole itinerary. And then once you show up at the airport, you're in their hands and they just guide you through all of it. It's really wonderful.
Oh, that's nice.
And it's rigorous as far as we saw a lot, but it was also there was one day that we had a free day, and that was when we went to some of us went to Yad Vashem, which is the Holocaust commemorative, and it was really moving to be there for that, and the food we had everywhere was amazing. And if we wanted an alcoholic drink, we had to pay for that ourselves. Other than that, all the food was all taken care of. You didn't have to ever pick up a check anywhere because you did that in advance. And there were places we got to shop. Taipei is a Christian community. It's the only all Christian community in the West Bank, and they have an olive press where people come and press their olives, and they also make beer, and they and they had some nice gift shops in different places, and Bishop Gale and the others who were leaders were encouraging people to support, especially the Palestinian Christians. Another place we went that was very moving was the Princess, I've forgotten the name of it. There's a center there that was originally in Jordan, and now it's comes under Israel's jurisdiction, and it's a center for children with disabilities, and the families can come and be there, and especially children on the autism spectrum and things, that the Muslims that don't understand in their culture how to deal with that, and the mothers will come and they will work with the children, and they do that all at little or no cost to the people who come there, and it was just really impressive, the work that they do.
Yeah, that was beautiful. It brought back memories to me of when when I had gone to Egypt, seeing the pictures,
Oh yeah.
It really did.
Yeah, that was it was my first desert experience. I've never even been to the desert in this country. So, and then to see places like Wadi Kelt where Jesus walked, and to see that desert, it was it's really
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, appreciate you doing this.
Yes,
Just
our
for us.
private showing.
I know it. Do we have to pay more for the private showing?